She let him sit at her table in a crowded cafe. She had no idea he was a millionaire single father. The cafe was louder than usual that afternoon, a steady buzz of conversation layered over the hiss of steaming milk and the clatter of cups. Every table was taken. People hovered near the entrance hoping someone would leave, but no one did. It was one of those chilly early spring days when everyone wanted warmth, heat, coffee, or just a place to sit and breathe. Maya Carter pressed her sketchbook against her chest as she squeezed through the narrow aisle, scanning for a single empty seat. Nothing. Her worn sneakers squeaked faintly on the tile floor, and the strap of her thrifted bag bit into her shoulder. She tried not to think about how little money she had left after paying most of her rent that morning. She just needed one quiet hour to finish the draft for a freelance design gig. If she didn't submit it tonight, the agency would move on to someone else. Her breath fogged slightly on the door's glass as people rushed past, and she muttered under her breath, "Come on, just one seat." Every chair was filled, except her table. A tiny two-person table by the window, cluttered with her pencils and coffee cup, but the seat across from her was empty. She had been hoping it stayed that way. She liked having the small bubble of privacy, even in a crowded cafe. But then she felt a shadow fall across her sketchbook. She looked up. A man stood there, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark coat still dusted with cold air from outside. His hair was slightly messy, like he'd run a hand through it too many times. His eyes, deep and tired, scanned the room before landing on her with hesitant apology. "Sorry," he said softly, voice warm but worn at the edges. "There's nowhere else to sit. Would you mind if I—" He gestured to the empty chair. Maya blinked. People asked to share tables sometimes, but usually not men like him, clean-cut, quietly handsome, like someone who belonged in a corporate boardroom rather than a crowded cafe. She hesitated, glancing at her scattered pencils, the half-drawn illustration of a smiling child, and the coffee she'd stretched for 2 hours. Sure, you can sit," she said quickly, tucking her hair behind her ear. "It's busy today." He offered a grateful smile, the kind you give when you're exhausted but relieved. "Thank you." He sat carefully, as if trying not to take up space. The scent of crisp winter air and faint cedar cologne drifted across the table, grounding her unexpectedly. Maya refocused on her sketchbook, but her hand wouldn't stop trembling just a little. She wasn't used to being this close to someone who radiated presence, not arrogance. Something softer, something sadder. She tried to ignore it, but then she noticed him glancing at her drawing, the half-finished sketch of a curly-haired little girl laughing. His breath hitched, just barely. His fingers tightened around his cup. And then, in a low voice, almost to himself, he whispered, "She looks a lot like—" He didn't finish. Maya's pencil paused. "Oh, sorry," he said quickly. "Didn't mean to stare. You're really talented." She flushed, caught somewhere between embarrassment and warmth. "Thanks. Just practicing." He nodded, but there was something behind his eyes now, something that flickered between surprise, longing, and maybe even ache. Maya didn't know that this drawing wasn't just any child, and she definitely didn't know who this man really was, or the small daughter waiting for him somewhere outside this cafe. All she knew, in that moment, was that she had let a stranger sit at her table, and that tiny decision was about to change everything. The man tried to focus on his coffee, but his eyes kept drifting to Maya's sketchbook. Every few seconds he seemed to catch himself and look away, as if staring too long might give something about him away. Outside the window, cars rolled past the busy street, and the soft rattle of spoons and distant laughter filled the cafe. It should have felt ordinary. It did not. Not for him. Not today. Maya shifted in her seat, sensing the tension but not understanding it. She cleared her throat. "Long day?" she asked gently. He let out a soft breath that was almost a laugh, almost a sigh. "Long week," he said. "Feels like life has been sprinting, and I am still tying my shoes." Maya smiled at that, even though she felt a familiar pang. She knew the feeling well. "I get that," she said. She gestured vaguely at her sketchbook. "I am supposed to submit a design tonight. If I do not get it done, I lose the gig." He nodded once, slowly, as if he understood that stakes could be heavy even when they seemed small from the outside. "Do you do art full-time?" "Not yet," she said. "I work part-time at a print shop, part-time doing freelance. It is kind of a mess." He looked at her then, not just politely but with real attention, the kind that made her cheeks warm. Messy does not mean failing, he said quietly. She froze for a second, surprised by the kindness in his tone, by how grounded it felt coming from him. Are you a motivational speaker? She joked lightly. He chuckled, the sound soft but real. No, definitely not that. He raised his cup but paused before drinking, his eyes drifting again to the sketch of the little girl. May I ask, why this drawing? Maya glanced down at it. The curls, the grin, the light in the eyes. She shrugged. I draw kids a lot. They have so much emotion, you know? So much story in their faces. His fingers clenched ever so slightly. Maya did not notice. She kept talking, her voice easing now that she had slipped into familiar territory. I saw a little girl laughing outside the grocery store yesterday. She was jumping in puddles, even though it was freezing. She looked so alive. I wanted to capture that. The man swallowed hard. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said, My daughter loves puddles. Maya blinked. You have a daughter? His eyes softened, warm and aching all at once. She is 5. Curly hair. Laughs like the world belongs to her. Maya felt a flutter in her chest. Something gentle. Something unexpected. She sounds perfect. She is, he whispered. For a moment, something unspoken hung between them. Then his phone buzzed. Not loudly, but enough to break the air. He glanced at the caller ID, and Maya noticed the way his entire body changed. His shoulders tightened. His jaw clenched. The fatigue in his eyes returned tenfold. He silenced the call. Maya hesitated. You can take it, if you need to. No, he said quickly, then added more softly, no. It is fine. But it was not fine. And she could sense that now. Something about him was not just tired. He was carrying something heavy, something he was not ready to name. Before she could ask anything else, a barista called loudly over the noise. Order for Andrew. The man stood quickly, almost too quickly. That is me. He picked up his drink and returned just long enough to place a folded napkin beside her sketchbook. His voice was gentle. Thank you for letting me sit. Really? She offered a shy smile. No problem. He hesitated like he wanted to say more, but turned away, heading for the door. Maya watched him leave, the cold air swirling in as he stepped outside. She reached for the napkin without thinking. A small pencil sketch lay on it. A quick drawing. A perfect one. It was her. Focused, drawing, hair falling across her face. She felt her breath catch. She looked up again toward the street. But he was already gone. And she did not even know his name. For a long moment after the door closed behind him, Maya sat completely still, staring at the tiny sketch on the napkin as if it might disappear if she breathed too hard. The lines were quick but precise, capturing her expression with an honesty that startled her. No one had drawn her like that before, not even in art school. It felt strangely intimate, like he had seen something in her she did not even see in herself. She traced the corner of the napkin with her thumb, trying to understand why her chest felt tight. Maybe it was because he had seemed lonely, in a way she recognized too well. Maybe it was the softness in his eyes when he mentioned his daughter. Or maybe it was simply because he had vanished before she had the chance to ask his name. Outside, the wind rattled the cafe door. She shook her head, trying to refocus. Her freelance draft still needed to be finished. Responsibilities did not care about mysterious strangers with kind smiles and tired eyes. She bent over her sketchbook, but her mind kept drifting back to that moment when he had looked at the drawing of the little girl. The way his voice had cracked ever so slightly. 5 years old. Curly hair. Laughs like the world belongs to her. Maya tried to channel that moment into her work, shading the lines of her design with more life, more emotion. But every few minutes her gaze flicked to the napkin sketch beside her cup. By the time she finished her draft and sent it off, the sun had already dipped behind the buildings outside. The cafe lights cast warm reflections on the windows, and the crowd had thinned. She packed her things, slipping the napkin carefully between the pages of her sketchbook, and headed out into the chilly air. Her apartment was only a 10-minute walk away, but the cold cut sharper now. She pulled her jacket tighter and turned the corner onto Maple Street. That was when she heard it. A small voice. Daddy, look. The puddle is shaped like a bunny. Maya froze. Her heart stuttered. It was impossible. It was ridiculous. Yet she turned. Standing near the curb was the man from the cafe, the same dark coat, the same posture like he carried the weight of something unseen. Beside him was a little girl in a bright pink jacket, curly hair bouncing as she jumped into a shallow puddle with unapologetic joy. Water splashed over her boots. She giggled wildly. And there it was. That laugh. Light, bubbling, fearless. The sound he had described. The sound she had drawn. The man noticed Maya before the little girl did. His eyes widened with something like surprise, something like embarrassment, something like fate folding the world inward. "Hi," he said, a little breathless, as if unsure whether he should smile. Maya's voice was barely above the breeze. "Hi." The little girl spun around. "Daddy, who is that?" He opened his mouth, but Maya bent down slightly, offering the girl a warm smile. "Your puddle looks very artistic," she said gently. The girl lit up. "Daddy says puddles are nature's paint." Maya laughed softly, glancing up at him. He rubbed the back of his neck, almost shy. "She comes up with her own interpretations." The girl stepped closer, her eyes curious. "Are you Daddy's friend?" The man tensed. Maya noticed. It was subtle but unmistakable, a tightening of his shoulders, the kind that came from a story he did not want to tell. She shook her head gently. "We just met today." The girl gasped dramatically. "Like a surprise friendship?" Maya smiled. "Maybe." The man cleared his throat. "This is Lily." Maya's chest warmed. "Nice to meet you, Lily." "I am Maya." Lily's grin somehow grew wider. "Do you want to see my favorite leaf? It looks like a star." Without waiting, she tugged Maya's hand, pulling her toward the puddle. Maya glanced at the man, as if asking permission. He nodded slowly, a soft, grateful expression settling in his features. Lily proudly held up a soggy leaf. Maya admired it as though it were a museum piece, and the girl beamed with pride. When Lily darted off to inspect another puddle, the man exhaled, the breath heavy but freeing. "Sorry," he murmured. "She gets excited." "She is wonderful," Maya said honestly. He looked at her, really looked, the streetlight catching the tired gold in his eyes. "I did not expect to run into you again." Maya swallowed, her fingers brushing the edge of her sketchbook inside her coat. "Me either." For a moment they just stood there, their breath forming small clouds in the cold air, the sound of Lily's laughter echoing between them. And it felt impossibly natural. Almost too natural. Maya finally asked, softly, "Do you want to tell me your name now?" He hesitated, a flicker of conflict crossing his face. Then he said, "Andrew." He paused, as if the next part mattered more. Andrew Hale. She did not know it yet, but that name was about to unravel everything she thought she understood about today. And about him. Andrew. The name lingered in the cold evening air, soft but weighted, as though it carried more history than a simple introduction should. Maya repeated it in her mind, trying it on like a shape she was still learning. Andrew Hale. It fit him, somehow, gentle and steady. He watched her reaction closely, almost too closely, as if her response mattered more than she realized. Before she could say anything, Lily bounded back toward them, a fresh leaf in one hand and muddy fingertips in the other. "Daddy, look. This one looks like a dinosaur footprint," she announced proudly. Andrew crouched to examine it with mock seriousness. "A dinosaur, huh? Should we watch out for giant lizards walking around the neighborhood?" Lily gasped in delight. "Yes. They might be hiding behind cars." She darted off again, chasing her imagination down the sidewalk. Maya could not help laughing. "She is really something. She is everything," Andrew replied softly, and for a moment Maya saw something raw across his expression. Love, of course, but also fear. She wanted to ask about it, but before she could, he straightened, brushing a little damp dirt from his hands. "I should not keep you," he said. "You are probably headed home." She hesitated. I was. But it is fine." He nodded awkwardly, like someone out of practice with simple conversation. "Thank you again for earlier. For letting me sit with you." "It was just a chair," she said with a small smile. "You do not have to thank me." His gaze held hers for a beat longer. It felt like more than that. Maya felt her cheeks warm, and she looked away quickly. Lily came running back then, grabbing onto Andrew's coat with her small hands. "Daddy, can Maya walk with us?" Andrew blinked, startled. "Lily, please," the girl begged, eyes shining in that unstoppable child way that made refusal nearly impossible. Maya laughed nervously. "I do not want to intrude." "You are not intruding," Lily insisted seriously, as though the matter were settled. Andrew exhaled in defeat. "If Maya wants to." Maya nodded, surprised by how natural it felt. The three of them began walking down the quiet street, puddles shimmering under the streetlights. Lily hopped between them, narrating her discoveries at rapid speed, and Andrew would answer every question with patient amusement, even when the questions made no sense. Maya watched him with a strange ache blooming in her chest. He was not just a good father. He was a devoted one. The kind who remembered boots and snacks and imaginary dinosaurs. The kind she never had. After a few blocks, Lily tugged Maya's sleeve. "Do you like stars?" "A lot," Maya answered. Lily beamed. "Me too. Daddy says Mommy likes them also." Maya slowed. The mention hit quietly, gently, but heavily. Andrew paused as well. His expression changed, softening with something unspoken. "Lily," he said gently, "remember what we talked about?" Lily nodded, looking down at her boots. "Mommy is in the sky." She pointed upward. "The stars keep her warm." Maya's breath caught. She looked at Andrew, who stood very still, shoulders tight, but face calm. "I am so sorry," Maya whispered. He shook his head once. "It was a long time ago." Lily suddenly wrapped her arms around his leg. He rested his hand on her back, steadying her. For a moment the world felt too quiet. Maya wanted to say something comforting, but the sincerity in his expression stopped her. He did not want pity. He wanted normalcy. Steady ground. Something simple that did not crack open old wounds. She respected that. They continued walking until they reached a small park at the corner. Lily ran ahead to the swings, giggling. Andrew turned to Maya. "She gets attached easily," he said quietly. "I hope that did not make you uncomfortable." "Not at all," Maya replied. "She is wonderful. And you are doing a good job. A really good job." His jaw tightened, and his eyes flickered with something she could not name. "Some days it does not feel that way." "That just means you care," she said. He looked at her then, truly looked, as if her words shook something loose inside him that had been locked away. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed again, vibrating sharply in his coat pocket. He grimaced and turned away to glance at the screen. Maya caught the edge of the caller ID reflecting in the streetlight. It was a company name she did not recognize, but the way Andrew's face tensed told her enough. Work. The kind that pulled too hard. The kind that expected more from a single father than was fair. He silenced the call again. "Sorry," he murmured. "They will keep calling." "Do you need to answer?" Maya asked. "No," he said too quickly. "Not tonight." But something in his eyes did not match his voice. Something was unraveling beneath the surface, something he had not told her. She did not know it yet, but the truth behind that phone call, and the name, Andrew Hale, was about to turn an ordinary evening into something far more complicated. The moment Andrew silenced the call, the air around him shifted, subtle but unmistakable, like a gust of wind that did not touch the trees but somehow reached the bones. Maya saw it, even if he tried to hide it. That tiny flinch, that hesitation, that fear of something she did not yet understand. Lily had climbed onto a swing now, kicking her boots gently against the dirt, humming a tune that sounded like a cartoon theme. The park was quiet except for her, the soft glow of the streetlights painting long shadows across the sidewalk. Maya folded her arms for warmth. "You know," she said lightly, "I spend half my life ignoring calls from work. It is a skill." Andrew gave a short laugh, but it did not reach his eyes. "I wish it were that simple." Maya hesitated before asking, "Do you want to talk about it?" He shook his head. "Not really. Tonight is different. Better." She nodded slowly, accepting the boundary even though the secrecy curled like a question in the back of her mind. But then Lily called out, "Daddy, push me. Push me higher." Andrew turned toward her instantly, the heaviness in his shoulders softening just a little. "Be right there," he called back, then looked at Maya with a half-smile that seemed apologetic but warm. "Duty calls." Maya watched him jog over to Lily, scooping her small body into the swing with practiced ease. He pushed gently at first, then a little higher until she burst out in delighted laughter. Maya felt something inside her shift, slow but certain, like a tide pulling quietly at the shore. He was not just a good father. He was the kind of father stories were written about. The kind who knew how to turn grief into gentleness. The kind whose presence made the world steadier. She lingered at the edge of the path, unsure if she should leave or wait. She checked the time on her phone. Late. She had work in the morning. But her feet did not move. When Andrew finally let the swing slow, Lily hopped off and ran straight to Maya again, holding something tightly in her fist. "Here," she said proudly, opening her hand to reveal a tiny pebble. "It is a friendship rock." Maya blinked, touched despite herself. "A friendship rock?" "Yes," Lily said matter-of-factly. "So you do not forget us." The word us wrapped around Maya like a soft scarf. Andrew looked flustered. "Lily, sweetheart, Maya probably does not want." "I love it," Maya said quickly, kneeling down. "I really do." Lily squealed and hugged her around the neck with all the enthusiasm her tiny arms could hold. Maya hugged back, laughing softly as the girl squeezed harder. When Lily finally released her, Andrew offered an apologetic smile. "She gets attached quickly. I hope she is not overwhelming." Maya shook her head. "She is perfect." The words slipped out so naturally that she had no time to catch them. Andrew's breath stilled, and he looked at her with an expression she could not decipher, something like gratitude and longing woven together. But then his phone buzzed again. More insistent this time, vibrating sharply in his pocket. He stiffened. This time he did not check the screen. "I really have to get her home," he said quietly. "It is getting cold." Maya nodded, even though something in her chest tugged in the opposite direction. "Of course. I should get going too." They stepped out of the park together, Lily skipping between them. When they reached the next corner, Maya slowed. "This is my street," she said. Lily stopped skipping and pouted dramatically. "Will we see you again?" Maya smiled. "I hope so." Lily turned to her father. "Daddy, can she come over?" Andrew flushed. "Lily, for dinner," Lily insisted. "Or for coloring. Or for stars." Maya laughed, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "We will see," she said gently. Andrew cleared his throat. "Can I at least walk you to your door?" She considered it, then nodded. "Sure." They walked the last half-block quietly. When they reached her building, Maya shifted her bag on her shoulder. "Thank you for walking with me." "Thank you for today," he replied. "All of it." She hesitated, then pulled out the napkin sketch he had left earlier. "This," she said softly, "is beautiful." His breath caught. "You kept it?" "Of course I did." Andrew opened his mouth, maybe to say something vulnerable, maybe to say something he had held back all evening. But then Lily tugged his coat urgently. "Daddy, I am cold." He swallowed whatever he had been about to say. "Good night, Maya." She smiled gently. "Good night, Andrew." And then she watched them walk away, the small girl's hand wrapped trustingly in her father's. She had no idea that the next time she saw that name, Andrew Hale, it would not be on a napkin or on his lips. It would be on a screen, under a headline that would turn her entire world upside down. 2 days passed before Maya saw the name again. She had spent most of that time replaying their walk home, the way Lily had hugged her without hesitation, the way Andrew had looked like he was about to say something important before swallowing it down. It should have faded with the rush of her part-time shifts and deadlines, but it did not. If anything, the memory lingered like a soft imprint she could not shake. On the evening of the second day, she sat in her small apartment with her sketchbook open, trying to finish a commission, when her phone buzzed with a notification. A local news alert. Normally she ignored those, but then she saw the name in bold. Andrew Hale announces major expansion to Hale Tech Children's Initiative. She blinked. Hale Tech Children's Initiative. Andrew Hale. She froze, feeling her heartbeat thud against her ribs. She clicked the article. The screen filled with a crisp photo of the same man she had met in the cafe. The same tired eyes. The same gentle expression. Except here, he was standing behind a podium, surrounded by reporters, looking confident, polished, and unmistakably powerful. The caption under the photo read, "CEO and philanthropist Andrew Hale speaks at the annual Hale Foundation press conference." Maya's breath hitched. Chief Executive Officer. Philanthropist. A man who ran one of the largest tech companies on the West Coast. A man who could casually silence business calls in a park because he wanted to spend time pushing his daughter on a swing. Her mind spun. She scrolled further, reading phrases she could hardly process. Net worth estimated. Award-winning innovation. Single father known for his quiet leadership style. Rare public appearance. Her hands trembled slightly. She set the phone down and pressed her palms to her forehead. She had spent an entire afternoon with him. She had walked down the street with him. She had met his daughter. And he had never said a word. He had never even hinted. Was he hiding it because he wanted a normal moment? Or because he did not trust her with the truth? The question twisted in her stomach. A light knock startled her. She glanced at the clock. 10:30 in the evening. No one visited her at this hour. She approached the door carefully and peered through the peephole. For a split second, she thought she imagined him. Andrew stood there in the hallway, coat unbuttoned, hair slightly damp from misty night air. He looked exhausted, even more than the first time she saw him. And he looked nervous. She opened the door slowly. Andrew. His breath fogged faintly in the cool hall. "Hi," he said quietly. Just one small word, but it held 100 unsaid things. "Is Lily okay?" Maya asked immediately. Andrew nodded. "She is fine. She is with my sister tonight." His eyes met hers, and the weight behind them nearly made her step back. "I needed to talk to you." She swallowed. "I saw the article." He closed his eyes for a moment, like the words physically hit him. "I figured you might." "You are a chief executive officer," she said, barely above a whisper. "You run Hale Tech. Why did you not tell me?" Andrew exhaled slowly and leaned a hand against the doorframe, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the tension radiating off him. "Because I did not want that to be the first thing you knew about me. I did not want to be the chief executive officer in your eyes. I just wanted to be someone you talked to. Someone who sat at your table because there was nowhere else to sit." Maya's chest tightened. "That is not fair. You knew my life. You knew I was struggling. And I knew nothing about yours." He winced. "I was going to tell you. I just did not expect everything to move so fast." She let out a shaky breath. "You lied." "I hid," he corrected softly. "There is a difference. And I am sorry. I never meant to make you feel small or misled. I just wanted one normal day." She looked down at her hands, her thumb brushing over the edge of her sketchbook lying on the table behind her. "I do not know what to think." Andrew stepped forward, then hesitated. "Maya," he said quietly, "that day with you and Lily was the most normal and peaceful I have felt in months. Maybe years. I did not want to lose that by letting the world I live in swallow it." His honesty hit her harder than any headline. She lifted her gaze to meet his. For the first time since she had opened the door, she saw something beyond secrecy or apology. She saw fear. Genuine fear that he had already ruined something that mattered to him. She took a breath. "I just need time to think," she said finally. The words seemed to deflate him, but he nodded. "I understand." He stepped back, hands in his coat pockets as if unsure what to do with them. "For what it is worth," he said softly, "I am glad you know the truth, even if it scares you." Then he turned to walk down the hallway. Maya watched him go, her heart pounding. She closed the door gently, but did not move away from it. She stood there, listening to his fading footsteps, feeling something she could not name pulling at her. She had just learned who he truly was. And somehow, that truth was only the beginning. The next morning, Maya woke with a heaviness that clung to her like a second skin, the kind of weight that made even the simplest movements feel slow. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Andrew standing in her doorway, his expression torn between guilt and hope. She heard his voice saying he just wanted one normal day. She felt the ache in her chest tighten each time she replayed the moment she told him she needed time. She dragged herself out of bed, made coffee she barely tasted, and tried to sketch, but every line came out wrong. Around midday, her phone buzzed with a new notification. She glanced at it without interest until she saw the headline. Hale Tech stock jumps amid rumors of major internal conflict. Maya frowned and clicked the alert despite herself. The article mentioned an internal dispute among board members, a push for expansion, and tension around the Hale Foundation's children's programs. She did not understand all the technical language, but she understood enough to realize that whatever pressure Andrew was under, it was bigger than she imagined. Bigger than a missed call in a park. Bigger than a man simply wanting a quiet moment with his daughter. She closed the article and set her phone aside, but her stomach twisted with worry. By early afternoon, she forced herself to leave the apartment and walk to the grocery store. Fresh air usually helped clear her head. Today it made her feel lonelier. Her thoughts followed her down the sidewalks, past the bakery, past the newsstand, past the familiar cafe where everything had started. She almost kept walking. Almost. But something pulled her toward the door. The bell chimed softly as she stepped inside. The cafe was quieter than usual. She found a table in the corner and ordered tea, hoping the routine would settle her restless mind. She had just opened her sketchbook when a familiar voice said gently, "Maya?" She looked up sharply. It was Andrew's sister. They had never met formally, but she recognized her instantly from the framed photo Andrew kept. On his phone wallpaper, a quiet, candid shot of her holding Lily at a birthday party. The woman stepped closer, concern etched in her expression. "I am sorry," she said softly. "I hope I am not intruding. I just wanted to talk to you." Maya blinked, thrown off balance. "How did you know I was here?" "Andrew did not tell me," she said quickly. "Lily did." At Maya's confusion, she explained, "Lily asked for you all day. She begged me to bring her to the park near your street. She thought she might find you." Maya's breath caught. "She did." "Yes," the woman said gently. "She talked about you nonstop. The girl does not usually attach to new people like that." Something warm fluttered painfully in Maya's chest. "Is she okay?" "She is fine," the sister said. "But Andrew is not." Maya's heart tightened. "What happened?" The sister hesitated before sitting across from her. "His world is complicated. He tries to shield Lily from it, and he tries to carry everything alone. Last night, after he left your building, he sat in his car for almost an hour before coming home. He did not say what happened, but he looked broken. I have not seen him like that since the night he lost his wife." Maya's breath trembled. The sister continued. "He told me he met someone kind, someone who made him feel normal for the first time in years. And then he said he ruined it." Maya swallowed hard. "I just needed time." "Of course you did," the woman said gently. "But he thinks he scared you away. And today, the board is pressuring him harder than ever. He is exhausted, Maya, and he does not trust easily. But he trusts you." Maya stared down at her hands, her pulse thudding. Images flashed in her mind. The napkin sketch, the puddle, Lily's hug, the tremor in Andrew's voice when he said that day had been his first peaceful one in months. "I did not mean to hurt him," she whispered. "I just did not know how to react. One minute he is a stranger at my cafe table, and the next he is everything you were not prepared for," the sister said softly. "I understand." Maya closed her eyes, letting the truth sink deep. She had been afraid of being small in someone else's world, afraid of being swallowed by something too big, too powerful. But Andrew had not used his world to impress her. He had used everything he had to hide it, just to be someone ordinary for a day. "He should not have lied," Maya said quietly. "No," the sister agreed. "He should not have. But he did it because he wanted to be seen as a person, not a title. And you saw him." Maya lifted her gaze, meeting the sister's calm, earnest eyes. "Where is he now?" "At the Hale Foundation building," the woman said. "There is an event tonight. A small one, but important. He will be there." Maya felt her heartbeat quicken. The sister leaned forward slightly. "If you want him to know you did not walk away, that is where you should go." Maya exhaled slowly, the decision blooming in her chest with steady clarity. She stood, closed her sketchbook, and tucked it under her arm. "Then I should go." And for the first time all day, her steps felt certain. The Hale Foundation building rose like a quiet monument against the evening sky, its glass windows glowing with warm golden light that spilled onto the busy street below. Maya stood across the sidewalk for a moment, catching her breath as people in suits and elegant dresses stepped through the entrance. She felt underdressed in her simple coat and boots, but she did not turn back. Not tonight. She crossed the street, her heartbeat loud enough to rival the traffic. Inside, the lobby hummed with soft conversation, the gentle clinking of glasses, and the polished professionalism of an event meant to impress donors. But Maya was not here for any of them. She scanned the crowd, her pulse quickening when she spotted him near the far end of the room. Andrew stood beside a display of framed photographs, speaking quietly with a board member. He wore a tailored dark suit, his posture straight, his expression composed, but Maya saw through it immediately. His eyes looked tired. His shoulders carried tension she could recognize even from a distance. And beneath all of it, there was a sadness she had not seen in him before. He had not shaved that morning. His hair was slightly messy. He looked like a man trying to appear whole while something inside him was fraying. Maya stepped forward, but before she reached him, the board member beside him raised her voice just enough for Maya to hear. "You cannot keep ignoring these calls, Andrew. The expansion needs your approval tonight. People are starting to question your leadership." Andrew's jaw clenched. "I said I would handle it." "You have been too distracted lately," the woman said sharply. "This is not the time for personal matters." The words struck hard, and Maya saw Andrew flinch, almost imperceptibly, but it was there. The board member continued. You are letting your emotions interfere with your responsibilities. This is not what your father built this company for. Andrew's voice dropped to a dangerously quiet tone. Do not mention my father. The board member sighed dramatically and walked off, heels clicking across the marble floor. Andrew closed his eyes briefly, inhaling like he was trying to steady himself. That was when he saw her. His eyes opened, widened slightly, and for a second, everything in him softened. Maya, he breathed, barely audible. She stepped closer, her voice gentle but steady. Hi. He swallowed, stunned. What are you doing here? She hesitated, searching for the right words. Your sister came to see me. His expression tightened with alarm. Is Lily? Lily is fine, Maya interrupted softly. She just missed me. Relief washed over his face, so visibly it hurt to look at. She continued. Your sister told me you were here. She said you are under a lot of pressure. Andrew looked away. She should not have involved you. I wanted to come, Maya said quietly. He looked back at her, confusion and hope and fear colliding all at once. I thought, after what happened, you did not want to see me. Maya took a slow breath. I was overwhelmed. You kept a big part of your life from me, and I needed time to understand how I felt. His voice cracked as he asked, and now? She reached into her coat and pulled out her sketchbook, flipping to the napkin he had drawn on. She held it up gently. Now I understand that the way you looked at me when you drew this, the way you push Lily on swings, the way you try to carry everything alone. This is who you are. Not the title, not the company, not the headlines. Andrew stared at the sketch, his breath hitching. Maya continued, her voice trembling but sure. I needed to see the truth. And I see it now. For a moment he did not speak. His eyes glistened, not with tears, but with something just as raw. Relief, disbelief, and a quiet, aching hope. Maya, he whispered, I never wanted to scare you away. She stepped closer until there was barely a breath between them. Then do not hide from me. His breath faltered. The room around them blurred into meaningless shapes. He lifted a hand slowly, as if afraid she would pull away, but she did not. Before he could speak, a voice boomed over the microphone across the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. The event was beginning. Andrew's expression shifted with apology. I'm supposed to go up soon. Maya smiled softly. Then go. I will be right here. And for the first time in days, he looked like a man who believed things might still turn toward hope. Andrew stepped toward the stage as the room shifted into polite silence. But before he joined the others near the podium, he turned back once more, as if making sure Maya was real, as if making sure she had truly come. She gave him a small nod that said, Go on, and something in his shoulders finally eased. He stepped onto the stage, shaking hands with a few board members, though Maya noticed he avoided the woman who had spoken harshly to him earlier. Cameras flashed as the event began. A few reporters scribbled notes. But Andrew looked out at the room with a steadiness that had not been there before. When he reached the microphone, his voice carried clearly through the hall. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began. His tone was composed, but Maya could hear something new beneath it, something more grounded and human than any headline could capture. He spoke about the importance of the children's program, the need for community support, and the impact these initiatives had on families who needed stability and hope. But then, unexpectedly, he paused, glancing toward the display of framed photos behind him. One showed Lily holding a star-shaped lantern from last year's event. Another showed him reading to a group of children. He took a slow breath. I want to speak honestly for a moment, he said. Some of the board members shifted uncomfortably, but he continued anyway. The work we do here matters. But it is easy to forget why it matters when we let numbers and expansion plans overshadow the people we are trying to help. A ripple of murmurs moved across the room. Andrew kept going. I lost someone very important to me, he said, his voice steady but threaded with quiet pain. And for a long time, I thought dedicating myself to this work would fill that space. But the truth is, I hid inside my responsibilities instead of letting myself live. His eyes scanned the crowd, and then, briefly, they found Maya. Recently, someone reminded me that life is not meant to be carried alone, and that sometimes the most meaningful moments come from the simplest acts. Like a conversation, a shared table, or a child's laughter. Maya felt her chest tighten. The board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Reporters scribbled furiously. But Andrew did not back down. I believe leadership requires honesty, he continued. And honesty means admitting when you have been wrong. So tonight, I am choosing to lead differently. With transparency, with balance, and with the understanding that values mean nothing if we forget the people behind them. The room went quiet, truly quiet. When he stepped away from the microphone, applause rose slowly, then strengthened. Not everyone clapped, but enough did for the moment to land with weight. After he left the stage, a few board members tried to approach him, some with forced smiles, others with thinly veiled annoyance, but he bypassed them effortlessly, his eyes searching the room until they found her again. Maya stepped forward as he approached, her heartbeat quick but certain. He stopped in front of her, still in the haze of adrenaline and truth. You did that, he said softly. You helped me say that. No, she replied. You already had it in you. He shook his head. Maybe, but I needed someone to remind me of who I am outside of all this. Maya took a breath. Then let us both promise something. He waited. She continued. No more hiding. Not from responsibility. Not from grief. And not from each other. His eyes softened, the tiredness easing with each word she spoke. I promise, he said quietly. She reached out, her fingers brushing his, and he took her hand gently, as though holding something precious he did not want to break. The noise of the event faded behind them. Andrew, she said, there is something else. He tilted his head, worried but listening. She pulled her sketchbook from her bag, opening to a new page. A new drawing. It was him and Lily, at the park, their silhouettes framed by the swing set, frozen in that moment of laughter and light. His breath caught, his voice barely a whisper. Maya, this is how I see you, she said. Not a chief executive officer. Not a headline. Just a father. Just a man trying his best. He swallowed hard, emotion thickening his voice. No one has ever drawn me like that. Then it is about time someone did, she replied. He let out a shaky breath and stepped closer. I want to build something real, he said. Something honest. With you. Then let us start, she whispered back. As he leaned in, he stopped just enough to ask without words, and she nodded softly. The kiss he gave her was gentle, steady, full of the sincerity he had tried so long to hide. When they finally drew apart, Lily's voice echoed from the entrance where his sister stood with her. Daddy! Lily ran toward them at full speed. Andrew scooped her up, and Lily giggled, looking between them. Did you find your smile again? Andrew laughed, the sound warm and whole. I think I did. Lily looked at Maya. Are you staying for dinner? Maya grinned. If your dad is okay with that. More than okay, Andrew said, his voice rich with new certainty. And as they walked out of the foundation building together, hand in hand, it felt like stepping out of the shadows and into something brighter, something true. The best seat she had ever offered, a simple place at her cafe table, had changed all their lives. And this time, they chose to sit together on purpose.